Welcome to Transforming the Toddler Years, a Core 4 parenting podcast blending soul and science-based strategies to empower pandemic moms like you, raising kindergarten-ready kids. I'm Cara, your host, a lifetime lover of littles, girl mom, early childhood educator, and conscious parenting coach who truly believes that how we connect and collaborate with our kids in the first 5 years is how we raise world-ready kids who will change this world.
Today's guests are a beautiful married couple, Joe and Mell Hashey. He was a teacher turned entrepreneur into the fitness industry who realized he was spending more time on his work than his family life. And Mell was a social worker who became a stay-at-home mom. This story is one you do not want to miss because not only are they going to share how in 2020 they decided to pick up and move from New York to Colorado, 2,000 miles away, to a place better aligned with their family values in order to refocus on the most important organization in their lives, their family. But the way that they talk about core family values and respecting each person in their household as an individual who is on their own personal growth path is truly inspirational. I got so much out of this episode, and I cannot wait to share it with you. Welcome back to the Transforming the Toddler Years podcast. I have special guests. Yes, you heard plural on there today for you. I have Joe and Mell Hashey here with me, and we are going to be talking about being intentional in how we design our family experience. And they're going to share a story about a huge shift they made to focus exactly on that. Mell and Joe, thank you so much for taking time and being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks. We're so happy to be here.
So let's start at the beginning, right? It's a great place to start. You two created a beautiful family, and your life was not where it is today. Tell me about your kiddos and tell me why you made a huge decision to move all the way across the country in the middle of a global pandemic.
Sure, of course. We'd love to share our story. We've been married almost 17 years, and we have 3 boys, ages 5, 11, and 13. And back in 2020, things really got turned around for everyone in the world. And in our experience at the time, we have a gym business. We had several homes that we were renting, long-term rentals, and all of a sudden, all of that just stopped. People stopped paying rent. Our gyms had to close. We couldn't go there. I decided to homeschool for a year because the schools were only allowing the kids to go back 1 day a week. And all these things were happening at the same time. So Joe and I started this habit of going on a walk every day. And on one of those walks, he mentioned to me, all these things are going on. What's our lifeboat plan? What are we going to do if we can't reopen or if we lose these houses or whatever happens? And he suggested moving. And I truly panicked about that because, where we came from, that's all I ever knew. That's where our family was. That was the crazy idea for me. But once I let it marinate, like that evening, it got a little exciting. Just the idea of there could be other opportunities for us, especially for our kids. The main focus was where could we go where we could have more opportunities for them? Maybe a state that was more welcoming to business or welcoming to opportunities. And we actually printed out a list of the 50 states and just started to kind of check them off and see where could we see ourselves? Where is there more sun? Because where we came from, it was often cloudy. And the idea developed so that just allowing ourselves to even consider moving allowed this idea to develop and get exciting and opportunities to present themselves. So we made this big decision to fly out and start looking at houses. And still the whole time it's like you pinch yourself. And I know it sounds almost exciting at this point, but back at that moment, it was very difficult. I was still very much going back and forth about the idea. We had to sell our home. We were homeschooling. The kids, one in particular, wasn't exactly pleased about this move. So juggling all of that, we really had to take it a step at a time and really slow down and make sure we were doing things based on our family values, which is kind of where our conversation, I'm sure, will go in a few minutes. But I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think you covered it very well. Well, we were homeschooling, not sure what was going to happen. And we wanted to find a place, which was important to us, where the kids would have an opportunity after school to potentially stay in the area. Regardless of the field they chose, just a width of opportunity. And so we just started narrowing down the states and started looking.
Joe, here's what I love about what you said on that daily walk. Well, first, the idea that you two prioritized each other and said, the world is in chaos. The only thing that we have is this core family. Let's make sure we make time for each other and for these kiddos. And then you said something that shows such perspective. What if there's another way? And honestly, there's just so many families, millions and millions of families who felt stuck inside the stress and the overwhelm and the anxiety of that survival mode that COVID created for all of us. And you two said, what if there's another way? It's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the show, because you embody the core four methodology of nothing is ever finite. We always can find another way. So let's talk about your core family values, because clearly you knew what they were if you were looking at new states, new counties, long-term vision for your kids beyond school, whether that's home or a placement, into their adult years. So tell me about your core family values.
Yeah, I'll give you kind of the background of how we chose them, and Mel can break down ours as examples. We do encourage every family to pick what fits for them. And how we started establishing it was from the business world. I had realized that I had spent more effort on running my companies than I did my family early on, and I wanted to flip that and take what I learned from running companies to run my family more effectively and with intention, some of the good practices that I picked up along the way. And one of them was company core values. And certain companies would pick them and they would just live on a wall and no one would know them. And other ones would pick them and they would live by them. And so we wanted to become a family that would live by our core values. So Mel and I sat down, we brainstormed big lists together, and we did an activity called Kill, Keep, or Combine, where we'd go through the list one by one and we'd cross off the ones that were good values, but not necessarily core values, the things that we would stand for in all occasions. And then we would combine things that were similar, like thankfulness and gratitude. And we start narrowing down the list and narrow down the list, because our goal is to get it to 5 to 7, because that's what's memorable. And we always say what's memorable is portable. You can carry it with you. If it's a list of 20 values, you'll end up dropping them all. It's too much to carry. And so we narrowed it down and we established our core values that we decided on what our family was going to stand for.
Right. And when we first, and I'll go into what they are in just a moment, but after we decided them, now at this time, our kids were little. So we only had 2 at the time. I'd say they maybe were 5 and 3 or so. And we had this idea and we ran with it. Now, if you have older kids, it's amazing to include them in this process. But at the time, I like everything to have visuals. So I printed ours up on a little bookmark piece of paper, and I gave one to each of the kids. We had them around the house, so they were ever present whenever we'd have dinner, things like that. So they were on the table until we all had them memorized. And one of the first ones that we came up with was, Joe actually mentioned, was having gratitude. This is really a huge core value for us. We try to show it whenever we can. And if anything, at the dinner table, we actually go around and share a piece of gratitude from that day. And our 5-year-old goes around and chooses who can go first and who's next. And I know your audience oftentimes has younger kids as they're prepping for kindergarten. So it's a great way to involve the little ones. They might not be able or want to share what they're thankful for at the time, but just giving them a task that makes them feel valuable and included has been really, really fun. So that's our first one. Another is be genuine. It's really important for us as a family to realize that we are a unique family, but we're also unique individuals. So there's 5 of us in this family. We all have our own interests, and it's important to figure out what those interests are and find ways to support them. So for example, our 13-year-old loves to build things, and we happen to find this free program every Wednesday. We can go down to the library, this art center that's attached to it. And yesterday he was creating this leather sheath. And then the other day he was learning how to weld. It's amazing. So because we know what he enjoys, we can more easily find things to fill those needs and grow his skills. Another of our values that I love very much is wanting to be together. So we want our kids to want to hang out with us, even when they don't have to hang out with us. So we try to create this situation where we have a good time together. We enjoy each other. We actually call ourselves like a rolling party. Like wherever we go, we just have a good time. And there'll be situations where I might leave the room to go do something for myself and the kids kind of creep in and I might want time to myself, but then I realize they're truly embodying that value. They want to be around me. And because that's a value of ours, it shifts my mindset. I want them to be with me. So I love that one. Another is be adventurous. This one certainly helped us with our decision to move. Would an adventurous family just stay somewhere where they're comfortable and where they're used to things? No. So that really helped push us to make that big decision. And that can be adventurous, like going on a hike, but it also can just be going outside of your comfort zone to do something new and different. And we have 2 more. So we have a total of 6. The last 2 are be accountable, which is real important for us. It's important to not play the blame game in our family. We want everyone to be super accountable for their choices, for their actions, and even for decisions that they're going to make. So if we have a goal set, we make sure we hold each other accountable. Did you complete that today? And we'll break it down a little later, but we break it down into little easy pieces. Read 10 minutes today. Did you complete that? Yes. So being accountable. And lastly is personal development, personal growth. We think it's really important to see learning as more than just school. So there are so many ways to learn different skills. The stuff I was talking about with my oldest, he certainly learns these things outside of school. And we as adults, we've become big book readers. We want to make sure we're reading really important books that help us develop as people, as parents. And we want the kids to always want to learn and not just think that I graduated, I'm done. That's not how it works, especially in the world we live in today. So those are the 6 that we've come up with that have shaped our family in the last decade or so.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I have so much floating around in my heart and my head right now with everything you've just said. But ultimately, the idea that you are preparing your children to be people in the world, right? That personal development piece that you said last, I said, wow, all of this is personal development. All of this is creating your sense of who you are, understanding that, accepting that they are not the same as their siblings, and that's okay. I can only imagine that the feeling inside your family is one of acceptance. How do you deal with situations when your kids disagree fundamentally about things? I'm just so curious because I'm sure it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No, of course not. I have to say that we've had these core values around for a while, and we make sure that we talk about them almost on a daily basis. Somehow it'll creep into whatever we're doing that day. And I think because we've created a culture of this is who we are, and the kids get excited about all these values and how we embody them, there's not a ton of pushback. We almost have, people will ask us, how do you deal with disciplinary issues? Honestly, we don't have as many to deal with, I think because the kids are founded in these values, but also because we just always refer back to the values. So if there's an argument, okay, we need to be accountable. Let's sit down. Let's hear everybody's piece in this argument. Because we have this set up, we just have something to fall back on at all times to help guide our decision making and to filter anything that happens to come our way. So I love your question. And I'd like to think that because we have taken the time and the effort on a daily basis to continue to have these values be a living part of our home, there isn't as much pushback as you might expect.
And with the potential, not even against core values, but just a general kid disagreement that happens on a day-to-day basis, we do a lot of relationship management, and that includes answering the question like, why does this matter to you that person believes what you believe? Like if one child we have loves soccer and one loves going and doing 3D printing, like what is it to the 3D printer that the other one loves soccer and vice versa? It's not a core value conflict. So like, what would you be trying to get out of putting that other person down about what they want? And the answer is, well, you really get nothing out of it and create more conflict. And so we use constant gentle pressure and have those conversations with the kids so that they understand how to think through a disagreement in their mind before it comes out of their mouth.
You know, so many of the people who listen to this podcast aren't just moms and dads of littles. They're also high executive corporates. They are also entrepreneurs or mompreneurs. And it's so amazing listening to you talk. It just feels like we're at the table, right? The board members are all sitting at the table and there's a mediation going on, except that there's that connection that only family has built in. You have truly blended the soul of the human experience with the best science-based practices for running an effective team.
I think you really hit an important part there. One of our goals is to have the kids be part of a high functioning organization before they go out in the world and have to be a part of a high functioning organization. So we want them to know what it feels like and to be treated and to speak with others with respect and have conflict and work through it in the household first before it becomes like this is a career choice, or in school it is, you don't want the first team you're part of to be somewhere out in the world and you don't have a frame of reference or lens to have these discussions. So I think you articulated it very well there.
And, this is one of the biggest challenges that parents are facing right now, particularly pandemic parents who have kids who are now between 1 and 6, and they're going back to these high-level school programs that expect the kids to be functioning at a 5 or a 6-year-old level. But really, they don't have the skill sets that you're talking about to manage that small social group or the large social group interpersonal skills and do conflict resolution because it wasn't practiced, especially during our lockdown moments. So I know something that you do, not just weave this into the fabric of your daily family lives, but you also have family meetings. What purpose do those bring? How do they elevate the overall experience that you're already creating for these kiddos?
Yeah, family meetings serve as like a weekly temperature check on how we're all doing. And the hardest person to hold accountable is ourselves. And if we go weeks and weeks and weeks without someone saying, hey, did you do that thing? Like, it just won't get done. And so our family meeting is a fun structure that the kids enjoy and ask for. If we miss them, which occasionally we'll do when we're traveling or something, say, hey, we're going to have a family meeting this week. We do it Saturday at dinner because family dinner is important to us because it wasn't as important early on. And it's the correction that I want to make. And we do it right during dinner. And we start off by sharing a way that we embody one of our family core values during the week. So we're practicing the terminology every week, or we ask them to share how somebody else in the family embody one of the core values. So we're practicing those interpersonal skills that you mentioned. And then we all go around and share. We get into our discussion topics, which are the things that we're going to just the nuts and bolts of what's going to happen this week. Could be a soccer practice, could be anything else like that. If the kids have an issue during the week, we say, hey, bring it up during the family meeting. So it gives them an outlet where they know they're going to be heard. For example, we have our tech time rules that we created, and the kids will ask questions about, hey, if I listen to music, does that count as my 15-minute tech time because I like music? And we'll talk about it. And our role is to really define what success looks like and then let the kids come up with the system. So we'll say, hey, with this example with tech time and music, we'll say, well, if someone else is in the room, we want to make sure that they have your full focus. And if you have earbuds in, it is sending the message that you're not paying attention to them. So what success looks like to us is that you don't have earbuds when someone is trying to communicate with you. And they came up with a system like, all right, well, what if I go for a walk after dinner and then I listen to it then to enjoy my music, then I'm back in the household? And so that's a great solution to get us there. And so we have those conversations and discussion topics. Then we slide over to our tough truths, which is anything that needs to be brought up that's a little bit more sensitive. We have a specific spot for it to be brought up. One of the kids might say and have said like, hey, Dad, I saw you check your phone once during dinner and I didn't feel like I was being heard. Like, that was a tough truth that I had to practice. Okay. I didn't say like, oh, well, I got work. You don't know what it's like to be me. Like, I had to practice and role model what it was like to get the correct criticism because they were right. And we came up with a solution for it. So we worked through that with our tough truth section. Then we set our weekly commitment, which is anything that we choose to do every day during the next week to move our lives forward. Mel's choosing, I believe, 10-minute reading time right now. One of our 5-year-old chose 16 squats. He likes to squat up and down 16 times. So fitness is a big piece of our family. Another one might be Henry was practicing soccer for 10 minutes every day. And so you just make these commitments, and then every day at dinner, we check to see if it was done. Then we do a compliment to everyone at the table. Then we give a firm handshake and a pat on the shoulder, and Mel tries to sneak in hugs. And that's exactly how we run a family meeting, about 30 minutes.
And I think the kids look forward to it. And Joe touched on this because their voice is heard. A lot of times family meetings are presented as, hey, we're going to have this impromptu family meeting. And usually it's something terrible is happening. So we've made it a weekly thing. So it's an expected thing. The kids can bring topics to it. And they're learning how to problem solve. They're learning how to effectively communicate. They each share what they think. And oftentimes I'll say to them, okay, bring that to the meeting, give it some thought. We're not going to just decide on it right now because we're feeling emotional and impulsive. It's a calm time to discuss and talk. And we truly, I think almost all the time when they present a problem, they come up with the solution. And when kids come up with the solution, they have buy-in and they'll be more likely to follow through. And we'll often say, let's try this solution for a week. It's not like it's forever. We allowed them a little more tech time during the summertime. Now that school's out, let's try it for a week. Let's see if you guys are responsible with it. And then we'll join back in the next meeting. So it's important to be consistent, but really the kids do really like these meetings. They ask for them whenever we happen to miss it. And the other cool thing about the tough truth section is that Joe mentioned his example. The kids can do tough truths to the parents. So we've created this culture where we're okay with accepting positive criticism. So that's been really cool. So they accept it from us, we accept it from them. And it's really, low heart rate. We're all calm about it. People don't get all fired up. And it's really a fun time. We all look forward to it.
There is so much permission in your family. I imagine people are listening saying, are you open to adopting right now? Because this is just a place where you can feel like you can grow into your best self. It's just amazing. So many things came up for me when you two were sharing. The first is how it just so beautifully echoes the collaborative parenting methodology that I teach to toddler parents. And a lot of moms say to me, wait a minute, I am allowed to give up some of my power to my toddler. And I say, when it comes to problem solving, you better, because if you are the one always coming up with the solution, it doesn't work. These kids need to be included. They need to have a voice. They need to try something and find that it doesn't work. They need to try a new idea that they came up with on their own and find it does, and feel that inner sense of accomplishment and joy. And I just cannot believe that everybody in your household gets to feel that on repeat and celebrate each other. It's just amazing.
I appreciate that.
Hey, Mama, did you know there are 5 skills that your child needs to practice to be truly ready to go to school, to be a good friend, a good student, and develop a lifelong love of learning? And spoiler alert, they are not ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, colors, or numbers. Are you enrolling your child in a twos program or a preschool for the first time? Are they already there, going to daycare or preschool, and the teachers are saying that they're, quote, struggling, maybe even sending home some incident reports? Take my Pandemic Moms School Readiness mini course. It's 8 short lessons with huge daily impact. The link is in the show notes. And if you DM me on Instagram, I'll give you a cool promo code for 50% off. You are raising world-ready kids who will change the world. And that means that they need to be school-ready as well. Once they are not with you all the time, that's where they're going to spend the majority of their time. Learn the 5 executive functioning skills they need for success in school and life with my mini course.
Since you mentioned the example of moms and like a little toddler, one example that popped into mind for me that I think everybody can relate to is refilling a child's water bottle. So my 5-year-old was like, can you please go refill my bottle? And we've started this mindset in our home where we're going to say, okay, how can you solve that problem? Well, I'm not strong enough to open it. Okay, how can you solve that problem? Oh, I can ask someone to open it for me. Great, let's do that. So it's like having that patience to realize, first of all, my child realizing that they do have the skills to think and through that problem and try to find some solutions. Some might work, some might not, but just giving them the hand to be able to do it. And then once they ask me, please to open it, then my 5-year-old can go refill it. And now he's amazing at it. He knows exactly what to do. And oftentimes he can open it because he's getting stronger. But the point is, even simple things like that, yes, it might be quicker if mom just does it. But I recognize if I allow him the space to try to find the solution, he will be better for it.
7 of my favorite words that ever come out of little people's mouths are, I did it all by myself.
Right.
I love it. So good. Joe, you said a couple words and it sparked for me. You talked about course correcting and how something wasn't initially in line with the core family values. And so you redesigned it and now you guys are committed to it. So many families, as I mentioned earlier, are still feeling like it's so hard to break out of the patterns and the routines and the habits that were created during the COVID experience. How do we start course correcting? What are a couple small steps people can take to change things now so that they don't feel like they have to stay there forever?
I think the first piece of it is something that you mentioned. You need to unload the baggage of other people's opinions on how you're running your household. You're always looking for extra ideas and learning, but it's not the opinions and judgments. And you have to decipher those, unload the opinions and ask your activities and what people are telling you. Like, is this serving me now? It may have served you before. It's the old saying in business, what got us here won't get us there. Like, it got us this far. And now what are we going to do? And part of our story is moving across the country. And it was eye-opening for us because we got away from a lot of the extra pressures around us, family pressures and things to do it and live a certain way. And it was very freeing and it accelerated. We were on the path already, but it just accelerated us so much further to say, all right, well, let's just really decide what's right for us. And having that parenting confidence is really huge. We talk a lot about how do we build self-confidence in children, but the key is how do you build self-confidence in the parents where they're not always checking their parents at some point, like you're the parents, it's now time to establish yourself as a unique and independent household. You can hear other people's opinions, not judge them, just let it pass through and go on with living your life if it doesn't fit what you want to do. So unloading all that weight and then with clarity being able to decide what's good for your family would be my first step.
Because we had set up the core values before we made this big decision, that helped us to shape that decision and even be open to thinking about it. So if you don't have core values established, we think it's important to be very clear. So I think every family wants to be a good family, even a great family. But what does that look like? What does that mean? And when a decision comes your way, what do you base your decision on? And if you have the core values created, if you take the time to really establish those, and we thoroughly go through that in one of our first podcast, actually, that really will set you up for success just to take that step.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say on it is to shake the scarcity mindset. Just because someone else has an awesome family doesn't mean there's less awesome families for you to have. And I think it was Jim Rohn that used to give an analogy about the tallest building in town. There's 2 ways to have the tallest building in town. One way is to build yours up so it's big and beautiful. And the other one is try to go around and knock everyone's down so it's smaller than yours. And shaking that scarcity mindset and trying to build up, and then also get excited for other people when they are doing things different, but it works for them. It is not less happiness to go around. It's not how it works.
Oh, my heart is bursting right now. I just feel so aligned with everything that you're saying and doing. And, the C's, I'm all about the C's, not just because all 3 ladies in my household have names that start with C, but, the confidence, the clarity, the connection, the compassion, the cooperation, the collaboration, they're all parts of what you have described, but I think the confidence is the biggest part. I was thinking about it this morning. I was making garlic scape pesto because at the time of this recording, it's July in Vermont, and it was time to cut the tops of the garlic off. And I thought the first time I did this recipe, it took me hours because I didn't know what I was doing. And now I am so confident. I just grab my stuff and off I go, and I'm done in no time at all. And that's always my goal for parents, is if you can approach whatever it is, the conversation or the conflict, from a space of energetic confidence, confidence in the words you're about to use, the tone you're going to choose, and that long-term outcome that you're trying to teach your child how to navigate, then you've already won, whether the outcome is crying or not. And I know for both of you, that long vision, that long game is why you decided to do this. So talk to me not just about your weekly family meetings, but this annual vision that you have as individuals and a unit.
Yeah, so we started doing our annual plans. Again, a lot of the stuff is kind of from business, but when people hear that, they think robotic companies. It's not, there's a lot of good out there to learn and filter through and use. And so what we did this last January is we sat down and we did it more as a creative art activity where we told the kids to draw everything they want to accomplish this year. And so we just did a hot pen technique, keep drawing for 10, 15 minutes, and then you presented on what each item meant for you and what you wanted to do. And then Mel laminated them because she loves a good lamination and hung them up above the dinner table, and we'll take them down and revisit them quarterly to make sure that we're on track. The kids they are right on track, crossing off about 6 months worth of goals. One of our son's goals was to do 1,011 pull-ups on his 11th birthday. And so that was longer than a weekly goal. He trained for about 6 months. And then on his birthday, we did it together. And then he got to cross off his goal, but his sheet's still up there. And he's about halfway through his goals, about halfway through the year. So we review it quarterly, and then we break down to our weekly commitment, say, hey, like, what do you want to do this week to get closer to those goals that you set for this year? And one of ours was to launch a podcast. And so we did that. And one of ours was, other things. And we slowly work down, but they're always present. And we have a vision on what success looks like to us in the next 12 months.
And you're not married to the exact goal you set at the beginning of the year. Recently, our oldest son decided to make some changes, or even the middle son was crossing some things off, so he wanted to add some more. So it's okay to change. No, you're not just like stuck with it. Just like with the core values, if something's not fitting right, you can go back to the drawing board and switch it up. This is your family. You get to do it your way. And the really neat thing I want to share about the goal and the vision is our 5-year-old was included. Now, his picture wasn't exactly goals for the year, but he was at the table while everybody else was doing it. And he very well understands our weekly commitment. So Joe mentioned some weeks he does 16 squats or 10 push-ups or whatever it might be. And one day I was at his preschool in the morning. Sometimes I'll kind of hang out in the morning, and they do a little workout. You pick a little popsicle stick out, and it happened to be squats that day. And he's like, Mommy, that's my commitment for this week. So he, as a 5-year-old, is already understanding setting goals. He understands the language of a weekly commitment, and he gets excited about it. So I think that's setting a really good foundation for him.
Oh, here's what I love most about your core family values. You narrowed it down and said 5 to 7 because that is manageable, but they extrapolate the experience for each one of you for all those other ones that you couldn't fit into the top 5. Persistence, follow through, right? Responsibility, ownership of choices. Like, they just keep going out there, and we're all former teachers here, a Venn diagram. It just goes right out for you and overlaps in these beautiful ways. And that's where your core is. I have so enjoyed connecting with you in this episode, learning about who you are and who you are raising. I would love if you could share with the audience where they can find you, if you have a resource for them where they can start this journey on their own. And then also, what if you're not a family that has a devoted partner? You two are devoted to this together. What if you're a single mom? What if you're co-parenting? Can people still start this process today in their own home?
Yeah, great questions. We really appreciate the conversation. The simple way to find us is at strongfamilyproject.com. And we do have a resource there, which are called the 7 Steps of the Strong Family Path. It's a free download. One of those, you put in your email, you get it, and you get our notes on how we create our core values. You get our notes on how we do goal setting, and it breaks down the 7 things we follow. We were able to cover 3 of them today. That's all available as free resource for people at strongfamilyproject.com. And to your point, yes, it is often not easy when you're a single parent. However, you still want to create these positive outcomes, and having a clear strategy behind it may help you along your path as you do it. You still will have core values. You'll still do family meetings. You'll still set goals. You'll still manage the relationships in your household. And yes, you'll have to shoulder a lot of that creative burden yourself at the beginning, but having a structure around it is going to make it a lot simpler. So these things still do need to exist in every household situation, from a step parent situation to a single parent situation to whatever the situation is. That these are what benefits families and children. And if those exist in your household, then it's a good project to start.
And just to make to a point with the co-parenting, I think it's really important when children, if they're living in different households, part of the time here, part of the time there, even if just one of the parents is establishing core values and on this strong family path, when that child grows up, they're going to be able to look back. Because oftentimes when people become parents, they base what they do on what was happening in their lives. So they can look back and say, hey, this is what it was like when I was with mom. This is what it was like when I was with dad. Which of those did I think worked better for me? So to provide them that option, I think is really powerful. So to just say, well, we're co-parenting, so this isn't possible. I think it's important to give them that experience. So when they grow up, they can then fall back and say, hey, this is what we were doing. I really liked that. I had the experience with it, and now I can implement it in my own family.
Absolutely. And in our world over here, we call that your parenting why. And we write personalized parenting mission statements before we even start the transforming course, because the goal of where we're headed is what drives us to learn the skills and then create the opportunities for our kids to take the journey with us. You two are inspirational. You have a gorgeous family. I can only imagine the ripple effects that are happening in your village and your community. I cannot wait for everybody to come follow you and get on your email list and continue to follow the wisdom that you are placing in front of people so that they can have strong families.
Thank you, Cara. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I hope you are enjoying our back to school mini series that will run all through the month of August and the beginning of September. Topics that are relevant to where you are and what your kids are going through right now as you start full-time daycare programs, preschool enrollments, and even those first few days of kindergarten. Please take a moment and scroll down, rate and review the show. Let people know what you love about it, and leave me a note of an episode topic you would love to see me record. Until next time, stay mindful and proactive as we raise school-ready kids who will change the world.